Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to another episode of the Mind and Muse Crochet and Fiber podcast. I am your host, Caroline, and you can find me on the interweb mostly as Mind and Muse Crafts. That is my handle name for Ravelry and also for Instagram. I do have a site. My site is called mindandmusecrafts.com. And if you would like to take a visit there, I don't chat as often as I would like to because life gets in the way a lot. Things get complicated. But I do have a collection of posts starting way back from when I was actually a jewelry maker. That is actually the way I began. I began my crafting. I took up or retook up my crafting experiences after a very long time. I began with jewelry making, and so there are several, not a lot, but there are several posts about my jewelry making, and also a place where you can find some designs that I have created and for which I've written up pattern instructions, and I put them up free on a separate page in this blog. So if you're interested in seeing any of that, well, then I invite you to go and take a look at that site. What can I tell you guys? Every couple of weeks I come here and I try to share with you what I've been thinking about, what I've been reading about, what I've been seeing, and some of what I have been making. And so this week there's a lot less of what I've been making and maybe a lot more of what I have been thinking about. Life got complicated over the past couple of weeks and things happened. The semester, as usually at any educational center, complicates itself as we approximate the climax, which is half the semester or mid-semester, and then as we approach, kind of like when you reach the middle, it kind of like flies, and all of a sudden there you are at the end where you have to be evaluating, giving finals, and communicating with students that just don't believe that is the way that they worked the semester. The semester went by so fast and it left them not where they wanted to be. So yeah, life gets complicated, and when you work in education, as I suppose it gets in every profession, must have their certain peaks during the year where it can get kind of chaotic and frustrating. But in addition to that, I did receive very sad news about the health of one of my older sisters. I don't know if I've mentioned here before. I guess you get onto social media but at the same time, you kind of like hold back and try not to share every aspect of your life. I don't know why. Maybe you don't want to put it all in the same place. But anyway, I am the youngest of 11 children. Well, I was the youngest of 11 children a couple of years back. One of my brothers passed away very unexpectedly from heart failure. And ever since, well, we've all been getting older. So if I am the youngest, you can imagine how old the other 10 people are that are older than I am. And, well, one of my older sisters was diagnosed with lung cancer a couple of years back. And ever since, she has been progressing with the illness, and it is in its final stages at the moment. And since I am the youngest of so many brothers and sisters, I think it's a trait of younger children to be very impulsive in their relationships with their older family members, in the sense that you kind of like, oh my God, I want to be there for everything. And you're not always wanted there for everything, because some people, even though, I think especially in such a large family where we're living all over the place, well, not over the place, but basically a couple of us live here on the island and several live in the United States in different states. Well, you kind of like grow distant, and you can become very private, and you don't necessarily keep all of your family members up to date with what's going on in your life. And you usually tend to form a cocoon with your children if you have them, or your wife, or whoever your closest day to day family, immediate family or extended family are. And so that's kind of like the people you want around you in your moments where you are most stressed or suffering or going through difficult times. So, yeah, I get it. I get it. So, I did plan initially to travel out to try and be with her and help out whatever I could. I didn't have, like, well, I probably could have stayed for as long as I wanted because of the fact that we're working from a distance. I had offered to go down at the beginning of her illness, and she had asked me not to. And so, well, after some consideration and some conversations with the immediate family, well, we figured that maybe it was best if I didn't go. So, yeah, but still from a distance, you do suffer these things, and the day to day waiting for news on or recovery or news on, how things have progressed. Well, it can be heartbreaking depending on how close the relationship was, and it can also just be stressful. In either sense, it's stressful. So that kind of like slowed everything down for me for a couple of days there, where I didn't want to do anything. And yeah. So yeah, I moved on from that. I kind of think that before that, things were already getting slow because of the fact that I had gotten my second vaccine, and it had a punch to it, I have to say. It had a punch to it, and so I did need to rest for a couple of days, take it slow, so that, which I do believe is something that you're recommended to always do when you receive any type of vaccine, to not to rush into the normal day-to-day worrying and running about, but to kind of like take it easy to see how the body reacts to this strange substance, right? So yeah, I had to take a couple of days, but yeah, fine now. There isn't anything wrong with me now. But during those days, as a matter of fact, if I think about it, those days were 100% dedicated to crafting, because there was little else I could do but be still and try to craft things up. But I had to work on things that I didn't have to think about a lot. No excessive counting, no counting long numbers, no anxieties, crafting that could create anxiety for me. So nothing new. And so I'll share with you a little bit of what I have been thinking about these past couple of days. First of all, I'll always show you what I am wearing in terms of, I usually try and wear some piece of jewelry that I have made in the past, since that's the way I began this, I'll call it my second career. And so yes, there was a time when I began my jewelry making, my daughter, I don't know if that's kind of like usual for us. Clarissa, my youngest daughter, would always pick up on something and then eventually move on to something else, and I would get stuck with it because that's the way I am. So one of the things that when jewelry making began showing its presence here on the island, there were several bead stores that would sell these Swarovski bicones. And these particular ones were called AB because they had a lot of shine to them. They had, I think it was two sides that were coated with this shiny material, and another side that wasn't, so that it actually shined. And then the other thing was that there were a lot of courses going on to show you, and there was a lot on the internet also, to show you how to weave with these beads so that you could form different geometrical shapes or figures. And I remember that these, I don't know what you would call them, ovals, they are stuffed with a larger bead inside to make them firm so that they don't squish. And then you used beading wire, very thin beading wire, to weave them together following a certain pattern and created these little globes. I made several of them in different sizes with different materials because these Swarovski bicones, especially these AB ones, were not inexpensive. I don't remember if they went, and these were 6 millimeters, so they might have gone by something like maybe 60 or 80 cents for each one of them. And if you needed about 25 or 30, well, it would add up. And I'm the type of person, as a crafter, that accumulated a lot of things. So I do have actually quite a bit still of these Swarovski bicons in my collection. But anyway, that was a fad. Like I say, I made several of them. I made earrings, and I wove necklaces. I wove rings. There were a lot of things that I made with bracelets with these, and I am still quite fond of the craft, and I like to see other people do it now, not so much do it myself. You need good eyesight, and my eyesight started going bad, and so you couldn't see the little holes, and you also need a lot of patience. And although I think I have improved in that over the years, yeah, I don't think I am the most patient person in the world, especially when crafting comes along. So yeah, wearing that today. It's usually wrong because of the weight and how big it is. It's usually worn longer, but I tried to wear it a little short today so that you could actually see it, because of the fact that if I wore it too long, I wouldn't be able to share it with you. But anyway, so much for walking the talk, and I actually used my jewelry a lot when I was working and going out. I always wore jewelry out, and then kind of like immediately I'd get home and take it off, because then I would feel that wasn't the place for it. I wasn't like the type of person that could wear the jewelry all day long in the house, sweating and tending to the kitchen and tending to the cleaning. Well, no, it wasn't a thing for me. Always earrings, but the rest of it usually is just when I was going out somewhere, be it to the stores, to the shops, to the doctor's appointments, or to work. So that's that part of the beginning of this video that I always share with you, something that I have made, and some reminisce other moments in my crafting life. Okay, so what else have I been working on? Did I finish? Yes, I did finish one thing. Easter. Oh, okay. I need to stop for a moment and get a couple of things that just slipped my mind. I'm back. And little change of scenery back on me, because I remember that I wanted to share with you. I hope you all had a happy Easter if you celebrate it. And I am not a religious person, but I have very fond memories of Easter as a child, and so it is always dear to my heart. And actually, it is the time of year where we see a lot of changes in our climate here. So the cool, breezy days of the December-January season change and now become we get a lot more rain, there's a lot more sunny days, and I mean, when it rains, and when it's sunny, it's intensely sunny, and so the heat temperatures are rising, and you need a fan. I need a fan at night, or air conditioning, all depending. But Easter always makes me want to decorate. It always makes me want to decorate, and though I am not big on what would we call these pastel colors, I do like the connection of the pastel colors with Easter. And so I do like the pinks and the greens and the lilacs and the yellows. And it just, I think the combination is just happy. And so it makes me happy. And so I worked on several things while I was convalescent, if you want to say, just resting from my second vaccine. And one of the things is behind me. I was very interested in making a wreath. This yarn has made its appearance on several occasions on this channel because I have worked it up and frogged it back because I haven't liked. And so, but I think it's going to stay like this because I did think that the colors were very appropriate for the Easter theme. And so there it is. And I needed something, and it's going to bother me eternally because, okay, I'll tell you. What I did was I just crocheted a cylinder, and that cylinder I stuffed it once it was made. How did I crochet this? So the cylinder was worked up in single crochet and the back loop only. But then but in the round. So I was going around, and you can see where I was connecting here, and then I continued around this way, right? I was going this way and not in a spiral. I was joining. And so, but it turns out that I liked it better, what we would call the underside maybe. And so, because I thought it gave it more texture than the other side, and so I turned it inside out. I had wanted mine then to try and give it a little bit more firm length, to make it a little bit more firm, or give it some more structure so that I could hang it. I tried to take a hanger and make it into a circle and then insert it into the cylinder that I had crocheted and stuffed. And so I ran out of stuffing. I couldn't stuff it as much as I wanted to. It could have been a lot more sturdy, but it was fine for hanging. And then I wanted in the middle a scene, but I was running out of time. So I just took this crocheted rabbit that you remember that in the past I had made. I showed on this channel, or where it is a rabbit that is made, a bunny that is made out of a square. You crochet a rectangle. You crochet I suppose you could make it out of a square. I don't know. But I crocheted a rectangle, and then out of the rectangle you do certain folds and creases, and it becomes a bunny. And so there's a seam at the back of the head that creates the ears, and then there's a seam at the bottom. Then you stuff it and just add whatever you would like to it. So I decided to attach it here because it's always sitting around anyway. And then it appears that I did not exactly attach it in the middle. And so that bothers me. But since it wasn't going to be there forever, I didn't worry about it too much. Because actually what I wanted in the middle was a lamb. Because here on the island, I feel that rabbits are much less associated with Easter as they are on mainland United States. That has not been a part of a culture that has been assimilated. Because of the fact that there are many, religious is an important factor in the Puerto Rican culture. I mean, it's like everywhere people practice, and people don't, and some people are very intense about it, some people are not, and some people don't believe in it at all, and some people do. There's a mixture of things. But if you go back in time into Puerto Rican history, religion has always been there, and it has always been an important part of family life on the island. So therefore, I wanted to put a lamb, because from the time that I was attending church, I always remember the phrase Lamb of God. And so I thought that maybe the lamb for Puerto Rico would be more recognized as, oh, that's an Easter decoration than if I put up the rabbit. So I wanted a lamb, but I wanted a lamb that could also be made. So I'm going to put it over here. So I wanted a lamb in the simpler sense. I was wondering, is it possible to make the lamb out of just one rectangular crocheted piece of fabric as I made the rabbit? And so I looked for it. I looked on, well, as always, on Pinterest and the general Google search, and I found several things that were interesting. I did find a knit version for, it's not exactly a rectangle, but it is one piece that you knit up and then you do the appropriate folds and seaming and stuff. The one that I found most frequently imitated was one called the Waldorf sheep or the Waldorf lamb. And here it is. This is the knit version. The Waldorf lamb. You can look it up. I don't know if, let's see about this side. I don't know if the original version was written in another language other than English, because I have seen many imitations since. For example, if you go to Pinterest, so many people have made the Waldorf lamb or sheep, and they have made changes to it. They have added different colors for the, let's say, the snout and the ears, and the pattern has been extended to create things like elephants, and I think I did see a pig, and I also think I saw a giraffe. And so I've seen many versions of it, and I've seen them in different languages, and I have seen them on different places, some for free and even others being sold on Etsy. I can't tell you then which is the original pattern. You'll have to do that investigation yourself, especially if you want to make these things to sell and stuff like that. But the idea is you are giving these schematics. Let's see. Where you are told, in addition to saying the lamb, it tells you how many stitches, those are knit stitches by the way, so how many stitches each section should have and how many rows. Okay? So they give you a schematic and you create that schematic, and when you create that, it is going to look something like, I'll show you in a moment. I think first I just wanted to show you that. So it looks like that if you work it up correctly, or you work it up following exactly the original instructions. Other people have made changes to it. For example, here, instead of being like a square, here they open up a bit and they make it more like a trapezoid. And I have yet to try that. I believe the idea of that is to make the ears more noticeable. The idea of this is that you, as you saw on what I was trying to share with you, I'll see if I can. As you can see, the way it is sewn together at different places and the way that it is stuffed. I will say that the instructions are not great on how to join the pieces and how to join the sections. And so, yeah, you kind of have to figure that out by yourself. But she does have some illustrations. For example, there is an illustration of how to fold the square that makes the head down and join it in the middle and join it here at the sides, but leaving this space here to be like a neck. I didn't think that there was a lot of room to do that on her side, so that's why you'll see if you search for this on the internet that some people have made it actually that piece longer so that it works better. Here's my translation to crochet. I have used, here's one side of it, and here's the other, just to see if you can guess what is the stitch that I am using there. Because I think one of the reasons why, first of all, I wanted you to see how it looked this way in crochet versus the knitting that I just showed you. Second of all, this yarn was purchased for another purpose, and I didn't want to cut and just in case, I wanted to actually go back to using it for that purpose, was another one. And then I was also unsure if I wanted that to be the outside or if I wanted that to be the outside. I think I was going for this. I'll share it again with you. So maybe I was going for this because I think it looked more like the stitch. So this is slip stitch. Slip stitch going down one row in the back loop and the next row in the front loop. And so going down one row in the back loop and the next row the front loop and alternating all the way up, you get this texture that is supposed to simulate garter stitch, the knitting garter stitch. But I don't particularly think it looks bad on this side. I don't particularly think it looks bad on this side. Maybe on that side it looks more, I don't know what it looks like. But it's not bad. So yes, it's you would join these together to form the legs. Stuff it. Join this one together to form the other leg. Stuff it. Same for the other two. Then this part, you sew it this way, and then you're going to join that back here. You're going to join that back here. There. Notice how I folded it, trying to leave a little bit here free to create the neck. And that is going to make the ears. And since this piece is longer than the one she suggested for knitting, I think if I actually were to make it, my ears would be much more pronounced than my first version. Because this is the second. See, it would look like that. That's the way your face is supposed to look. So that was my second version. And this is made out of DMC Natura medium-sized cotton, 100% cotton. There are 50 grams in this just cotton. I worked it up with a 5mm hook. 5mm hook. Because when you're doing slip stitch, you recommended to use a larger hook so that even though you're supposed to crochet it without any tension, tension can happen, and just to keep it loose. Just to keep it loose by using the 5mm hook. So I think that's a pretty nice fabric, a pretty solid fabric for a 5mm hook. And I was very happy with this one. But like I said, I haven't made it into anything, number one, because I ran out of that polyfill. And number two, because this was purchased for a different reason, and I didn't know if I had given up on making that or not. So there is the unmade one. That's what it should have looked like. I started making mine in white because I wanted it to be white on my wreath. I wanted it to stand out. And I started making it in acrylic. Now this creature you see here follows the original dimensions, making the head 8 rows. I think they make 8 rows. This one has more. There's 10 or 12. Because, as it's me, I didn't keep track. I just did it until I thought it looked long enough. So this is acrylic and a bit of wool here because I actually ran out of acrylic. And so I added on some of this. I was trying to get it, but it went rolling away. Some of that Z-twist wool that I had purchased from Furls a while back. When I first shared this with Clarissa, she said that it looked like a polar bear, and I wasn't insulted by it. I actually kind of thought it looked kind of weird myself. But so I had to remend the head. I'm trying to get to keep this part here straight. Well, no, it's actually this part. This part here is straight where you join it. And since it was so short, I really didn't have a lot of room here to make the neck. But then I used the technique of taking a wire brush and just brushing all over it. Thought that if I got it to have a little bit of hair or a little bit of fuzz there, that it would look more like a lamb. So if you remember, that's a technique that they used in the Bernie Williams doll to make his hair. And it might be that I don't have the right brush, but I think it could still use. I didn't want too much fuzz because I was going for a lamb, but I figured I could cut the fuzz down a bit. But okay, the idea behind the Waldorf lamb was a small animal to keep the children entertained while you traveled. So it was meant to be done with cotton because they're going to put it in their mouth and all that. And it shouldn't have fuzz like this. This is not meant, obviously, for a child. It shouldn't have fuzz like this because they're going to put it in their mouth. It shouldn't have a tail because they'll bite on it and pull on it. And it shouldn't have eyes or anything that the child could rip off. And, So yes, all those things I have added to it because I just wasn't going for one that was going to be a child. Right? Basically, I was going for one that I could add to my wreath as part of my decoration. So I really don't think it looks bad at this stage. Maybe, well, if it was going to be an adult sheep, it needed more of a tummy. But baby sheep don't have that big of a tummy, do they? I don't know. Maybe a little bit of sag. I mean, there's maybe a little bit of shape there. It's not straight, I don't think. But anyway, if you want to try it, that is the Waldorf lamb. It is a knitting pattern, as I will tell you, but since you have the schematics of how many rows and how many stitches you need, now obviously I'm not sure, but I think that because crochet stitches are larger than knit stitches, that mine might be larger than the knit version. I'm pretty sure of that. But this was a size appropriate for what I wanted. So I'm fine with it. But if you want to make it bigger or smaller, use a different size yarn. This is worsted weight. And use a different size hook. Like I say, this is 5mm, and you probably get something smaller. If that's, let's say you wanted a family, you wanted a sheep with a family, you might be able to do it that way. As I say, I was interested in something that I could just make with one piece of fabric, and I don't mind sewing it together. But I didn't want to have to attach limbs and attach snouts and if you attach, these are 4 limbs. It's not the same as sewing it together, because if I make them into the fabric, I found that they're in the right place, and I don't have to figure out where to attach them or how to attach them. So for me, it worked, and I'm interested in seeing how the giraffe and what else did I tell you I saw? I saw the little piggy, I saw the giraffe, there was the lamb, there were bears. Don't remember if I saw a unicorn. Of course, that's not actually real. I think it was burro, donkey. There were other animals that are made in the same way, and I think I even saw dolls, like a small doll, a small version of a doll with a head and arms and all that. I also saw that. So yeah, not everything has to be amigurumi friendly, and so there are other ways to make things. So if you are interested in that, I would go and take a look. I would go and take a look. So I don't know if I'll be writing up the stitch pattern for the wreath. I can't even remember if I wrote it down. I'm thinking not, because it was just something that I was trying. Oh, nope. I'm looking at the wrong thing here. It was just something I think that I was trying to make for myself. I did write up some details for the lamb, but not for the wreath. So that took up a lot of my bedtime while I was resting from my second vaccine, because it was something simple that I could do while I was propped on some pillows, and it only took a couple of hours. Believe it or not, it only took a couple of hours. And so I have to say I was happy with that. I did continue to work on my sock, the sock that I am supposed to send to Clarissabeth as a belated Christmas? Belated Christmas exchange. So, continue to work on it. I finished the first one. I think I shared that with you the last time. This yarn pills a lot, so I'm not totally happy with it. The sock gets a lot of rubbing against the floor of the shoes, so it might deteriorate. And here I started the second one. I find that I am not prone to develop second sock syndrome. If the first one has gone well, I always want to get things done. So I really want to just get into that second one. So if you remember, this is the Hermione's Everyday Sock. And that is a free pattern on Ravelry if you want to look it up. It's been made, I don't know if I should say thousands of times, but I will say at least hundreds. And so it is it's famous. It's been out since 2004 or something like that, a long time. And so my adaptation has been to make it toe up. Although I did purchase recently, I don't know, well, it was recent, but I don't know if it was before I actually started making this one or it was after I had already begun this one, because I wanted to make it toe up, and my version of toe up always just takes the stitches and turns them around. So I start the toe and I do the pattern backwards. I didn't even bother doing this pattern backwards. I did it exactly the way it was stated in the original version of the pattern. And then when I got to the heel there, I just made my typical short row, German short row heel that I have borrowed from Sockmatician's sock pattern, or he calls it a sock recipe. But then, since then, I have purchased a pattern from the designer, the designer of this sock. It is also not that recent, but in that version, it's like pick and choose, where she gives you several toes, several heels and several leg patterns to create a sock. And she also describes how to make them toe up or cuff down. And so I purchased that pattern from her, and now I'm going to try and make another sock, but using the heel of the Eye of Partridge heel toe up, because she does have a description of how to make it there. And so yeah, it's progress. I am planning, since I now have my both vaccines, I am planning at the end of May, when I finish the semester, if everything continues to go well, to make a trip out to see my children at the end of May. And my first stop is in Florida to see Clarissa Beth. And so I think that by then, I've got over a month, this should be done. I think it should be done. Hopefully, it will be done. You can check a past video if you want to recall on what yarn this is. I mentioned to you it's a plumpy fingering weight because of the fact that I've been making socks in 64 stitches for Clarissa Beth in the past, and they never fit her. They're always too tight. And so it is plumpy, I believe, from Cascade Yarns. And it comes in a 150 gram hank. Purchased it a long time ago, a couple of years at least ago, and have never used it. So there goes that. The only other thing that I have been working on has been, no, not you. Sorry about that. Has been the wall art, the Garita wall art that I mentioned that I had written up sometime last September when Clarissa Beth was hosting the Latinx month on her channel. I called mine a contribution to National Hispanic Heritage Month. And so I'll show you where I'm at that. But there's no big news here. I have since printed out the pattern so I can just check off where I'm at. And you'll notice here that I am at the first corner. That means 76 rows in, and still no color change. I'm still working with my 3 colors. This is the designated front is this side, so these changes are purposely, I mean, it's like when you look at the sky against a darker sky against a lighter sky, it's not always perfect. And then down here we've got the actual Garita or century box coming up. Century box is basically square for the most part. I guess this is the bottom. It's mostly square for the most part, but then as it builds up, there'll be a change in color for the lookout windows, and there'll be a change in color for the circular top of it, and then, well, you know, things like that. So I'm at the halfway mark. That's what the first corner means, that I am halfway. And now all my rows will be decreasing. And now all my rows will be decreasing. So this is going to be a giant. It's going to be big enough to be a blanket. Not necessarily a wall art. It could be a blanket. And I am working it up with Yarn Art jeans yarn. This is classified as, they call it a number 2. Believe me when I say it. Number 2, which is probably DK, sport weight. Sport weight. I think it's like that. 4 worsted, 3 DK, 2 sport, and 1 fingering. I think it's like that. But who knows? It depends what region of the world, I guess. This comes from Turkey. So this is an acrylic cotton blend. So I'm sorry that I can't share anything more exciting about that, because as I say, those rows are long. But now But now we'll be going down. And when you go down, I think just the mental idea that you're going down kind of like makes it faster, makes it go faster. So there we are with that. I continue to work on it, one row whenever I can, one row at a time. And now I might get a little bit faster as it begins to decrease. The only other thing I've been considering that I could share with you is the yarn that I'm going to use to make up the Eat Cake sweater by Elizabeth Crochet Cakes. And so I did begin my swatch here. This is the swatch with what she has called and I lost a stitch here. Let me pull this up. What she has called the squished single crochet, and which I describe as an extended decrease, because you work as if you were going to decrease over 2 consecutive single crochets, and then you do a chain. After you complete that, you do a chain 1 before you start the next decrease, and that keeps it. It creates that texture of joining 2 single crochets together, but at the same time keeps your stitch count the same. So that's what it is. That's back and front of that. And so I need to complete a swatch in the squish single crochet and a swatch in the single crochet in the back loop only with this yarn. It is totally different from the yarn that she used. She used wool, but I am going to take a look at this yarn here, which has also made its appearance several times on the show, on the program, because I was working up a blouse that had this texture down the middle, and that was going to look beautiful, but I put it away, didn't work on it, because this was going back and forth. So I had to figure out a way to make these X's, see the X's that like go from one edge to the other, to make them going down the front and to also make them going down the back. And kind of like never got the technique down packed. So as I put it away, I forgot about it for the longest time. I forgot what I was doing. I hadn't written anything down, and so I don't think I could pick it up again. But that would have made a very pretty blouse. Very pretty blouse. I have no idea what stitch I was using there. Could it have been, I don't think it was single crochet. Could have been half double crochet, maybe, but very nice. 3.5 millimeter hook, maybe a slight bit of see-through, but I wouldn't wear a blouse under that because of the fact that it had this texture in the middle. That texture was looking really nice, but I totally didn't take notes, don't know what I did, don't know what I was doing. And so I decided to make it into something else, which is that sweater. And this is the original hank. I bought 3 of them because I was going to make a different sweater. And it's called Summer Bouquet Proverbs, 60% organic cotton and 40% linen. And this is by Forbidden Woolery. The name has changed since, but that's what it was called back when. So I've had 300 grams of this forever in my stash. I think it's about time I do something with it. So I'm thinking about doing that sweater. Though I don't think I will do it long sleeve. I think I'm going to crop the sleeves. I can wear a linen cotton blend here. So I'm going to try and work that up. Not sure as of yet the size, and also not sure if I like the way it looks in that stitch. because it was suggested for that sweater a speckled yarn, a speckled yarn. And so you can see some speckling there, but it's a lot more like these large stains. And so it looked a lot more speckled here than it does in that swatch. So I'm thinking about going down a hook size, or maybe half a hook size, using a 3.5 instead of a 4. We'll see. So those are my plans for now. I really don't have much else that I can share with you. Thank you for joining in. I hope you are well. Feel free to in the comments below to share with me what you've been up to and how you've been feeling, if you've had that second shot from the vaccine, or if you've just had the first one, if you're doing Johnson & Johnson. Tell me how you felt, and tell me about how things are in your area. I want to hear it all. Keep in touch with other sides of the world through the comments that you share with me below. And I enjoy that, and I try to respond to them as frequently as I can. For the time being, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for sharing with me, for stopping by, and for taking the time to listen to my babbling and my rambling on about my crochet. And do take care of yourself. I hope to meet you back again soon in a couple of weeks. Until then, keep yourself safe, keep yourself healthy, and keep crafting. Bye. See you soon.